Ladies and gentlemen, something massive just erupted in New York City. What started as a routine mayoral race has turned into an all-out political meltdown, and the Democrats are absolutely panicking because this isn't just about Zoran Mandani. This is about the soul of the Democratic Party itself, their golden boy of socialism, the self-proclaimed voice of the oppressed. Yeah, just lit the fuse that is tearing his entire party apart from the inside. Guys, we're talking religion, race, lies, and raw power that is colliding on live TV. Oh, and one minute he's like the progressive hero of the far left, but the next minute he's exposed for fabricating stories about his aunt and 9/11. Did you guys hear about that? Drop a yes or no if you have, sparking all sorts of a firestorm of outrage that has got even Democrats running for the exits. They're jumping ship. And so now the gloves are off. In fact, moderates, they're calling him reckless. Progressives are calling pretty much everyone else Islamophobic. And Andrew Cuomo, yeah, of all people, he's standing up there saying, I told you so. Guys, I can't make this stuff up. This is what collapse looks like, folks. A party divided between those worshiping at the altar of socialism and those who are begging for a return to sanity. Now, tonight, we're going to go ahead and pull the curtain back on the chaos, how Zoran Mandani's meltdown didn't just humiliate New York, it exposed the truth for what it is. The Democratic Civil War has literally officially just begun. So buckle up, guys, because what you're about to hear, this is going to shake the entire political map of America. Hit the like button, subscribe. So you got to understand something, okay, folks? Zoran Mandani, he wasn't supposed to win anything, okay? Not in a city run for decades by establishment Democrats, and definitely not against a political veteran like Andrew Cuomo. Yet somehow this 33-year-old Democrat socialist, the self-styled voice of the people, came out of nowhere and snatched the New York City mayoral primary in late June. Now, he ran on this laundry list straight out of Bernie Sanders' dream journal: free buses, rent freezes, new city-owned grocery stores, and tax the rich until the money stops rolling in. And in a city where discontent runs rather high over there, the message caught fire among younger progressive voters who are just fed up with high costs and corporate control. But here's the real kicker. It was built on emotion. The symbolism, the slogans, the anger, it all worked right up until the truth started catching up to him. So what looked like a grassroots movement for justice, it was really just the opening shot in a war between radicals and realists inside of the Democratic Party. This wasn't just like one upset election. This was a signal, folks, a signal that the far left had taken control of the Democratic base, and the old guard didn't even see it coming. And so this is where the implosion begins. Democrats aren't just divided, they're at war with themselves. Now, on the one side, you've got the whole woke socialist revolutionaries, you know, Mandani, AOC, the Bernie Sanders faction, people who want to rewrite America's entire economic and cultural code. But on the other side, you got what? You got the corporate establishment, right? You got the corporate establishment wing. You got Cuomo, Kathy Hochul, Chuck Schumer. They're terrified that the inmates have taken over the asylum. Well, their party's problem is that these two factions cannot coexist anymore. They just can't. So every time the far left pushes another radical policy, the moderates lose control of another batch of voters, right? They're bleeding voters. They're bleeding independents. They're bleeding suburban parents, working class families, the exact voters that Trump is now winning back under President Trump's second term. Now, Andrew Cuomo called it a quiet civil war, but there's nothing quiet about it anymore. In fact, you've got Democrats that are calling other Democrats Islamophobes, sellouts, traitors to progress. They're tearing each other apart live on national television while President Trump just keeps building jobs, growth, stability. So when you see Democrats panicking in New York, I want you to understand, it's not just about Mandani. It is about the deeper truth. The far left's socialist crusade has finally collided head on with the establishment that created it. And the fallout is already rewriting the future of their entire party. Now, freedom in retirement, it means a whole lot more than just hobbies or travel. It means freedom from worry. But the wrong Medicare plan is going to keep you chained to stress and bills. Nobody wants that, right? This is why I partnered with Chapter. They give people the confidence to enjoy retirement without fearing what their Medicare plan will or will not cover. Now, one of our viewers, she said, for the first time, I finally felt like my Medicare plan wasn't limiting me. It was protecting me. So let me ask, are you ready for freedom, or are you just going to stay stuck while most people are moving forward? Now, most people are calling that phone number right there on the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That phone number again is 909-563 8279. Oh, and don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys have already said in the comments about your experiences with Chapter. So Willa Folan said, I called Chapter, big help. But Nelda Phillips, get this, guys. She said I was being penalized for being healthy and not having prescription benefits. I'm 79 and take no medication. Chapter helped me. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That is some amazing and great news, guys. So then came the moment that really changed everything. Mandani, he took the stage and he gave what was supposed to be his defining speech. Emotional, heartfelt, and dramatic, right? He invoked 9/11. He said that his aunt stopped riding the subway because she no longer felt safe wearing her hijab, right? It was a story that was meant to tug on the nation's heartstrings and get all emotional, right? Maybe even jerk a tear or two, right? This was his intent. He wanted to frame himself as a victim to America's Islamophobia. But within hours, fact checkers tore it to pieces. Apparently, turns out his only real aunt lived in Tanzania during the September 11th attacks. She wasn't even in New York, guys. Then, cornered by reporters, Mandani changed his story mid-interview after he got called out in front of everybody, claiming that he meant to say distant cousin. Okay. That's when even the liberal press started squirming, guys. What was sold as this powerful moment of empathy, it was now being exposed as a politically staged lie. It was just a bold, flat-out lie, really, guys. And once the public smelled blood, social media erupted. Half of Democrats calling the criticism Islamophobic, the other half was demanding honesty. Now, just like that, guys, Mandami's identity politics backfired in his face. Instead of sympathy, it triggered a civil war of accusations inside of his own party, a total breakdown of trust that made even loyal Democrats start jumping ship. So while the whole scandal was exploding, Mandami's actual performance wasn't helping his case. His so-called economic justice plan, it was straight out of a socialist playbook, okay? I mean, he wanted to raise taxes on millionaires, create city-run grocery stores, and expand government control over transportation and housing. It sounded heroic to the far left, but to everybody else, it screamed disaster. I mean, corporate Democrats like Kathy Hochul and Chuck Schumer, they saw the writing on the wall. Investors were fleeing, businesses relocating, tax bases collapsing, and New Yorkers who've already endured sky-high rent. I mean, come on, guys. How much is rent in New York right now? Y'all let me know. How much is rent for a one-bedroom? I don't know where you're at. Let me know where you're at. How much is rent for a one-bedroom? How much is rent for a two-bedroom apartment, right? Rising crime in New York. You got mass exodus of taxpayers. They have had enough, okay? Even within his own party, whispers started spreading. This isn't progressivism. It's suicide. Andrew Cuomo hit him hardest, calling him a man who's never held a real job, never passed a real bill, and wants to experiment with 8 million lives. And the more Mandani doubled down, the worse it got. His campaign stopped sounding like leadership, and it started sounding like revenge, if anything. Revenge against the wealthy, revenge against the system, and pretty much even against the country that gave him the microphone. And that's the irony, folks. The Democrats built this Frankenstein, and now he's turned it on his own creators. And so now, here's where things really kind of start to spiral out of control. Polls across the country are confirming what the Democrat elites have been too afraid to admit. Their base is splitting right down the middle. 2/3 of Democrats, guys, 2/3 of Democrats now openly embrace socialism, but only 1/4 of independents do. You don't need to be a political science degree major holder or to see what this means. This is clearly a death sentence in a general election. I mean, Mandami's rise, it became the test case. The farther left he went, okay? The farther left he went, the more moderates fled, okay? Hispanics started peeling off. Working class voters, once very loyal Democrats, are now crossing party lines in order to vote for Trump and his America First policies. I mean, everybody's seeing it now. And you can almost feel the panic setting in. Party strategists are calling it the 80-20 doom loop. They keep doubling down on ideas that only 20% of the country supports: open borders, gender politics, men in women's sports, punishing success. I mean, look, why would you want to punish success? While the rest of America is turning out on all these things, America doesn't want that, right? And so what Mandani has exposed isn't just one man's mistake. This is a movement that is eating itself alive. In fact, Democrats have finally built a coalition that is so freaking radical, it is unsellable to the rest of the nation. And deep down, they already know this. And so why does this matter so much? I'll tell you why. Because New York City isn't just another election. It is the Democrats' showcase. This is their crown jewel, their cultural capital of the world, their experiment in progressive power. And so now the crown jewel of New York is cracking in front of the entire nation. The Big Apple, as everyone knows it, is on display for this experiment failure. What happens in New York always spills across America. The crime waves, the failed policies, the sanctuary city meltdowns, it all started here. And so now the ideological collapse is happening here too. Look, President Donald J. Trump, he's watching the chaos unfold from the White House, and you already know what he sees, right? He sees validation. The same Democrats who mocked him for calling out socialism and identity politics, they're now destroying each other with it. I mean, New York was supposed to be proof that progressive governance could work. Instead, it has become the stage where the Democratic civil war is being being televised in real time. Andrew Cuomo versus Mandani, moderates versus radicals, facts versus feelings. And make no mistake here, guys, how this battle ends in New York, this is going to shape the Democratic Party nationwide, because if they can't hold their fortress here, they sure can't hold it anywhere else. Now, the media tried to contain this fire, but they ended up fanning the flames. Overnight, every outlet from CNN to MSNBC was scrambling to explain how Mandani went from rising star to radioactive liability. Some called it Islamophobia, others blamed conservative disinformation, but the truth is even simpler than that. The left lost control of its own message. I mean, you see, for years, Democrats weaponized identity and emotion to win elections. But now, that same emotional manipulation has turned inward. Woke activists are accusing moderate Democrats of bigotry. Moderates are accusing the woke of insanity. This is like a circular firing squad right now, and the media just can't even pick a side without losing half their audience. Meanwhile, populism, real populism, is surging. Ordinary Americans, even in the deep blue cities, are done with the elite games. They want security, stability, a government that works. This is why President Trump's approval ratings are climbing while Democrats are imploding under their own contradictions. This isn't just a messaging failure. This is more than a messaging failure. This is a moral collapse. In fact, when a movement built on outrage runs out of enemies, it turns inward and eats itself alive. And this is exactly what we're watching happen right now. And so just when you thought that Mandani's campaign couldn't sink any lower, it did. In fact, the aunt in hijab story, it was just the beginning. Reports started surfacing of questionable foreign donations flowing into his campaign. Some allegedly linked to activists overseas. The New York Post even exposed contributions that violated FEC rules. Now, suddenly, Mandani's brand of authentic grassroots politics looked more like a foreign-funded PR stunt, and the optics, terrible. In fact, his opponents didn't even have to lift a finger. The story wrote itself. A socialist politician caught lying about his family, funded by questionable donors, and preaching morality while breaking the rules. The backlash was immediate. Cuomo called him a fraud with a megaphone. Local Democrats quietly began scrubbing endorsements from their social pages. Even far-left groups went silent. And the people of New York, already struggling with rising rent and crime, started asking the one question that Mandani just couldn't answer. If you can't tell the truth about your own family, how can you lead a city of 8 million people? Very good question, huh? The collapse wasn't gradual. This was instant. And the damage didn't stop with Mandani. No, it spread through the entire Democratic machine like a political virus. Now, make no mistake, this fight in New York is just the opening act. The same fractures tearing the Democrats apart in the city, they're now showing up across the country. I mean, just look at Michigan, look at Arizona, even California. Voters are abandoning the far left in record numbers. You got working class families, Latinos, union voters, they're all walking away from a party that's just lost touch with reality. And so while Democrats are busy screaming about pronouns and privilege, President Donald J. Trump is busy rebuilding America's backbone. Jobs are up, the borders finally secure, the dollar is strengthening again, and yet Democrats are just way too busy debating gender ideology to notice that their own ship is sinking. So what Mandani represents is the soul of today's Democratic Party, a party that's more focused on identity than integrity, more interested in symbolism than solutions. His implosion isn't an isolated event. It is the symptom of a movement that's just out of gas at this point. Across America, voters are saying enough. They want strength, they want honesty, they want America put first again, period, point blank. This is exactly what is happening under President Trump. So here's the bottom line, folks. This isn't just a local scandal in New York. This is a flashpoint for a nationwide reckoning inside the Democratic Party. The lies, the socialism, the identity politics, it is all catching up to them. We are living in a moment where the entire country can see the contrast clear as day. President Trump's America is rebuilding. Meanwhile, the Democrats' America is imploding from the inside. The civil war that they created is no longer theoretical. It is happening in real time, and Mandani just made it impossible to hide. The question now isn't whether the Democrats will lose control. It's how much damage they'll do to the entire country before they're voted out for good. So if you're watching this, share it, spread it, because people deserve to know the truth about what's really happening behind those closed Democrat doors. New York is just the beginning. The far left thought that they could hijack the party, but instead they're detonating it. And so now, when the dust settles, history will remember this moment, the day the Democrats' socialist dream finally collapsed under the weight of its own hypocrisy. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.